Yo, what's up guys? So today I'm going to be bringing you a tutorial of how I do my subtitles. It's been highly requested on my channel since I started editing for Spencer and Beaks. So I decided to finally just get around to doing it and showing you how I do my subtitles. I do have to say that everyone has their own techniques and their own way of doing things, but this is how I do mine and how I find it to be the easiest and making them look the best in my opinion. No matter what technique or program you use, subtitling is very time consuming, and a 10-minute video usually takes me a few hours to subtitle. So keep that in mind before this video starts, that if you're looking to pump out videos really quickly, then this might not be for you because it does take a while, and this is the quickest and fastest way that I do it and to make them look the way that I do. I do use After Effects CC 2018, so if you don't use this program, older versions will kind of look the same basically. You should be able to follow along pretty easily. If you're using something like Sony Vegas or another editing program, there are going to be basically the same windows, just they might be named differently, but they should be named the same honestly, because it's kind of hard to rename them something differently because they're all characters and they're all aligned, they're all paragraph, they're all effect. Like it's not going to be too much different. The worst part about editing in After Effects, and I am going to admit this, in Premiere, you only have a video track, maybe 2 video tracks, and a couple audio tracks. In After Effects, when you're done editing a video that has subtitles, and I'll show you what I mean, you are literally, after you have them all up, there's a million layers. And, you know, when you pre-compose them, it does make them a little bit better, and it makes it easier to follow or whatever, but for the most part, it does become messy at times. So if you're thinking about switching to After Effects because it's the best program for this, it's probably not. I've just used it for so long, I'm really comfortable with it, and I really don't like the way Premiere CC 2018 is. A lot of the interfaces to me just, I feel like After Effects is cleaner to edit in, and I also do things with a lot of effects sometimes and masking, so I prefer to just use After Effects and not have to switch between the two constantly. I also have the system down pretty quickly, so even though it does become cluttered, I have it down to where it doesn't really end up being that cluttered in the long run. So, alright, let's just hop into it, guys. So first off, you want to pull up the waveform. You could just listen to the audio.
I'm dead as hell.
But I mean, it's kind of easier just to look at the waveform. I do recommend editing the clips first, having all the effects or green screens or whatever you're going to have underneath on before you do the subtitles, because there's a chance that you put the subtitle on before and then you have an effect that kind of like clashes with it. Like say you have like a green font and it just looks terrible with, you know, one of the, maybe the grass or something. So you want to kind of edit it first and see what you're working with before you throw on the text. So I'm just assuming that this part is edited, and I'm just going to throw on the text now. So just click on the text and we're going to listen to what he says.
I'm dead as hell.
So he says, I'm dead as hell. So I'm dead as hell. Now, first off, you want to choose a font that goes good with the game you're playing. If you're playing Fortnite, it's a cartoony game, so this font's very cartoony, so that's why I chose it. This is not the font I use on all my videos, but I didn't really want to just use that font, just because, you know, if you want it, you can go find it. And I just don't want it being overused, even though it is already overused as it is. But this one ends up looking pretty good. Just for comparison, we could throw something on like this, and it just looks nowhere near as good. It looks terrible. So, you know, you want to have a cartoony font for a cartoony game. If you're adding something Call of Duty, maybe the other font would look good. You know, maybe you don't want the cartoony font, but for the most part, if you're editing like a content video, it ends up being kind of funny. So you want to have a funny, you know, kind of font. So first off, you got the font in, you got the text in. You want it to be centered, right? You don't want it to be up over here. Say you clicked over there, it starts here, it starts there. You don't want it to be there. What you're going to want to do first is you want to go to paragraph. You're going to make sure that the center text it's in the center. You don't want it to be left aligned text, you don't want it to be right aligned text, you don't want it to be justify, you don't want it to be in the center text. When you enter a new text, it's not going to align it to the left or to the right. It's going to be in the center. So just showing you what I mean, if you have it left aligned text, it goes off in weird places and it doesn't look good. And then when you scale it out maybe, or you scale it in, it goes off to the right or off to the left. When you have it center, it'll go straight dead in and it looks the best. So you always want to have that selected to be centered. Align is a really important thing. Align left, obviously it's going to be the left of the screen. Align right. So this is horizontally, so it's going to set it in the dead center of the screen. If you move it over, you click it, it'll make it centered. These three, align top, align middle, and align bottom, put them where I just said. I find directly on the bottom is kind of too low. For Fortnite, it ends up being pretty good if you want to have it like kind of by the health bar. So right there is pretty good, maybe up a little bit more, but right there it looks pretty good. So now your text is centered. The next important thing that we're going to go through is the character tab. I'm assuming you already have chosen your font that you want. Usually I would say you want to have the center of the color, the fill color, be white. I'll show you what like other colors look like and why I don't really recommend them. You could do something like green or something. It just like really takes away from the font, I think, in the video. Like it just makes it look kind of goofy. I know a lot of people that do have like really weird colored things just so it draws your eye to them, but I think the subtitles should be there just as backup in case the person didn't hear what the person said. So I always have it white to be the text color, but the stroke color is where you can kind of go crazy and go stupid. Now Spencer's talking in this part, so I usually have the main character whose video it is be black just because it's easiest to follow and I think it looks the best and the most clean. But say a girl is talking right now, maybe I'd change the stroke color to be pink. Or maybe someone that gets mad and is screaming a lot in the video, I've changed it to red. Or maybe it's a little kid, so I want it to be like a kind of like playful color, so maybe like yellow or something. Like there's a million different things you can do with it. But for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna go with black just because it looks the cleanest and you know, it's the main person talking. So next thing up is a font size. If you change the scale on it, which I don't know why people do it, but they do. If you zoom in with this, it can fuck up the quality pretty bad if you go in enough or you go back enough. If you want to change the size of your font, just go with the font size on the character tab. I have found 150 is literally the perfect size for most fonts. Some fonts, obviously, it's going to look way too small. Some fonts, it's going to look way too big. But for most fonts, 150 is good. You know, you could have it fit to be that big. It'd be 240, but you could have it to be 100. You know, 100 might not look that bad to some people. Maybe they don't want it to be as obvious in the video. So, you know, it's all about what you think. But I think 150 is like the perfect number. The stroke width is very important. The stroke is the color on the outside right here. If you have it on 0, you're not going to have any stroke. If you have it on 1, you're going to have a very small one. Certain fonts that might look good. Like on this font, it looks pretty nice. But you're not going to see the color if it's like pink or green as much. If you have it on 10, it's going to be really thick. It's going to be too thick. But 5, I have found, is basically the perfect number. For most fonts, like I said, it might not look as good, but 5 is pretty good most of the time. And you could do fill over stroke and stroke over fill. They give it different looks. You can see what they do. You know, it's all up to you, but I always have it a stroke over fill. Vertically scale, you don't ever really use. It just makes the text stretched up. Horizontally scale, it just brings the text to the right. Baseline shift, it just brings the text up and down, which you can just use positioning too. If you really want to, you can mess with this, but I just tend not to. I don't know how to pronounce that damn word, but this just brings the font to be in closer to each other. And honestly, for this font, it kind of looks good being in together like that. But, you know, it's all personal preference and what you think looks good with the font. These you learned in Microsoft Word. It's just bolding it, it's italicizing it, making everything in caps so you don't have to retype things certain times. If you need those, that's where they are. You have your font centered, you have it aligned correctly, you have a good font, you have a good stroke width, you have a different stroke color maybe. The next thing is making the font just not just come in and do nothing and then leave. So first off,
I'm dead as hell.
That makes two.
So if I listen to that, he stops talking like right here. So I want to cut out right about there. So Control-Shift-D to cut it. So comes in right here. There's no movement. And when it doesn't have movement like that, sometimes it looks all right. Adding that little bit of movement just makes the video look like you put a lot more work into it. You go to animation presets, you go to presets, and you scroll all the way down to the T's. You go to text. There's presets for your text. Now some of these look good, some of these look bad. If you have Sony Vegas or some other program, you might not have these, but After Effects and Premiere both have these. Even the older versions have them, so if you have like CS6 or something like that, you should still have these. Now for my videos, I can go through a few of these that I use a lot. I use fade up and flip, all the fade ups for the most part. Spin-ins work pretty well, twirls work pretty well, wipe into centers work pretty well. A lot of these don't work at all and they look awful. Like you can click pop-up buzzwords and it just it doesn't do what you want to do. Like what the hell is that? Random fade up kind of looks alright. Just go through it. So this is the start of the text animating, and this is the end of it. So if you watch it now, it's only going to get halfway through because the text cuts off. So he stops talking.
That makes
right here is when he stops talking. So you want to come in plenty before then, so you actually have time to read the font. So now it animates in.
I'm dead as hell.
That makes 2 of us.
So you can read it. You have plenty of time to read it. You might even want to have it in a little bit more. It's better to have it animate in quicker than it is to animate in too slow. So I'm just going to delete that. Like I said, fade up and flip I use a lot. So I'm just going to click on it and then drag it up.
I'm dead as hell.
That makes 2 of us.
So that always looks really clean. Spin in by word, if it's a dramatic sentence, I kind of use it just because it makes it kind of add to the moment.
I'm dead as hell.
That makes 2 of us.
In my opinion, just having the font finish and not have to have some sort of animation out looks cleaner than having animation out. A lot of people I know, they scale it up to 100, obviously, and then they have it come out to 0. And it kind of looks like that. And it is look clean in certain times, but in my opinion, I'd rather just fucking end. And so you have more time to read it. Another good option here that I didn't mention is the blurs. Blur by word and bullet train both look really good. Evaporate is an animation out, but blur by word looks really nice. I'll show you what it looks like.
I'm dead as hell.
That makes 2 of us.
Evaporate is an animate out, like I said. And if you really did like one of the animate outs and how they looked, you could totally go like this and just switch the 2 of them and start it at 0 and then have it come in and it will animate it in instead. That is a little trick. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but a lot of people don't realize that. So I did forget to mention these when I was originally recording, but I'm just coming in to add this just because I figured it'd help you guys out. Another couple animate in and animate out things you can do that aren't in that preset tab are scale. You just have it keyframe there for 100, drag it up a little bit, and then put it to 0, and then it'll just come in kind of nice. Another one you can do is opacity. It's literally the same thing. It's just T on your keyboard on a Windows, and then put it 100 and 0, and then it just fades in really nicely. Another one you can do is position, which is P on your keyboard. Keyframe it to where it's going to end, and then you can drag it down and it'll put it off the screen. You know, it comes in nicely like that. You could have it come off to the side to the right or something. It comes in like that. Another option that I do is I just have it go in by word. So I'm just going to scroll these over so it's already all animated in. So right here it starts.
I'm dead as hell.
He says I'm, so I would do this. I'm
dead as hell. Dead as hell.
He says dead here, so I'd say dead.
Dead as hell. As hell.
He says as here.
As hell. Hell.
And he says hell here.
I'm dead as hell.
That makes 2 of us.
So that always looks good. Sometimes he talks too fast or someone talks too fast and you can't get it in time and it looks too fast, and that's why you kind of want to just do the one text layer. But certain aspects, like right here, it sounds and looks pretty nice. I usually add drop shadow to all my font. It just gives it more depth. It makes it look a little bit nicer. It makes it look like you put a little bit more work into it, even if it is really subtle. You see it on and off, on and off. So I usually add that. One other tip that I would like to say, like I said, in After Effects, where you have a million different layers, this isn't really a problem in Premiere or anything else. But if you're editing in After Effects specifically, say you have, this is Spencer talking and this is a girl talking. What I like to do is I like to put a layer and add maybe sometimes I add adjustment layers, it just depends. Just separate them and then change the color of this so you can just see it's clearly a different layer. Maybe make it purple or some odd color that's not usually going to be. And then just turn it off so you don't see it. And now there's kind of a barrier in between the two, and then just put, you know, Spencer below. So now I know all the font below is Spencer and all the font above is, you know, the girl talking. you know, she comes in talking right here. She says,
Makes 2 of us.
that makes 2 of us. So it's overlapping, so you don't want that. She said that makes 2 of us. And then honestly, it's a girl talking, and all girls love pink, so we make it pink. And then, you know, that's how it looks. And the layer in between is not really doing anything, it just makes it easier to read. When you get a million of these in here and you get a million of these in here, it just makes it easier to separate. And you can kind of just scroll up and down faster. And when there comes a point where maybe you have, you know, 40, 50 text layers, and it's just becoming a lot to scroll up and down, just right click on them and drag, and then right click and hit pre-compose, and then just name it, you know, girl. And, you know, you can cut it to where she's not talking anymore, and that's how you do that. But that's all for this video. Like I said, it's pretty time consuming to do subtitles, and you know, for a lot of videos it helps a lot and adds to the value of the video, and it makes it look way nicer. But you know, it does take a lot of time. When someone's talking in a 10-minute video, usually I end up having like almost 1,000 different text layers, and it takes a long time. A 10-minute video usually takes me 4 or 5 hours to subtitle. If you guys want any other tutorials in the future, just let me know, comment below. Maybe I'll do an editing pack with all my presets and green screens and editing effects and sound effects and everything like that. If this video gets enough likes, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, peace guys.